Welcome to Hope at Night, featuring Cesar and Carolann de Leon. Q&A with our live audience, and host Anil Kanda. Today's episode, Can a Marriage Come Back from the Brink? And here's your host, Anil Kanda.
They say that marriage is like a deck of cards. At the beginning, all you really need is two hearts and a diamond. But give it a few years, you'll wish you had a club and a spade. Many young men and women eagerly anticipate their big day, not realizing the hand that they're dealt with in the following years can sometimes feel like a wild card, leaving many to question whether they really picked the right partner or if they should have shuffled the deck a bit more. Tonight, we're joined by a couple who face a stark realization from separate bedrooms that their marriage was over, and yet they found the winning hand. Tonight, they oversee family ministries all over North America as the director and associate director. Please welcome to Hope at Night, Dr. Cesar and Carolann de Leon. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be
It's a
here.
blessing to be here. Yes, it's great.
When we were talking about, that phase of life you went through when you guys were in separate bedrooms, I was thinking about I Love Lucy. Do you remember the show a long time ago? They used to sleep in separate beds.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess as time progressed, they started sleeping in one bed.
That's right.
Could you tell us how you guys met?
We met at a Christian youth camp retreat, if you will, for the second time. And he was one of two single pastors, youth pastors. And there was about, 250 single young ladies. So all of them were eyeing the two single guys.
Gotcha.
That's what she thinks, but that wasn't the reality. Actually, I think that for some reason, when we first met, we had met 8 years before.
Briefly.
Briefly, very short time, and she impressed me big time. But of course, I didn't have education, I didn't have a future in this country, so I decided just not to really do anything about the fact that she really impressed me big time. But at this time, at this camp, I saw her again, and maybe 7 years had gone by.
Yeah.
And I figure, it's been 7 years, so she's probably married. But then it just happens that we sat at a table one evening and we talked for 2 hours. And that's the rest of the story.
That's the end, huh?
Yeah.
Now, how long have you guys been married?
38 years.
That's incredible.
Yes.
By God's grace, yeah. Shouldn't have been.
Now, at what point in the marriage did things begin to go a bit sour? By the way, this is TV, so feel free to open up the closet and share
Let
everything.
me see if I
TMI.
remember. Maybe a week after we came back from the honeymoon.
Yeah, very quickly.
And it was just
Short-lived
basically an
honeymoon.
appointment to change the bank accounts. We decided, we needed to join the accounts. So I asked Carolann, please be, at the bank at 2:00. Don't miss this appointment. It's very important. And I was there, waiting for her at 2:00, and she didn't show up. It was 2:30, 3:00. She wouldn't show up. And
No cell phones on my
when
defense.
she showed up, she was just like very happy and
Nonchalant.
like nothing's happening. And I go like, do you know what time it is? She goes, no. And I go like, okay, I'm in trouble because I live my life by the clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got mad, angry, and didn't at any point did not receive any apology. She wasn't like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. She was just like, oh, I just didn't realize that I was late. So that was the beginning of a turning point for me, because I realized, wait a minute, if she cannot, be responsible for one appointment, what's going to happen to the rest of my life? So I'm thinking there, and maybe we need to tell them that tell you that our dating happened through a
Long
distance.
distance, yeah.
So a lot of things you weren't able to check out about each other.
Figure out, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I was
oftentimes
working
a
in Fresno,
challenge.
California. She was
Right.
working in Loma Linda, California. And there was 5 hours in between the two of
Yeah.
us. So we couldn't see each other very often. So we dated at a distance. So we really didn't get to know each other, because when we used to meet, it was just celebration, right? We used to celebrate,
yeah,
have fun,
yeah.
Love,
enjoy,
emotions,
No
and hormones,
fighting.
right?
There you go. There you
be
go.
at your best behavior,
Yeah.
and
Right.
just behave, right?
Right. After the legacy of romance is over in a marriage, you get to see each other for who you really are.
That's right.
Now, you guys were both succeeding outward professionally and in ministry, but you were finding some deep struggles within the marriage itself.
Absolutely.
Is that true of a lot of people?
That's a good question.
They say that marriage is the greatest emotional experiment that you go through life.
Yeah.
You never know what you get. It's like open a box of chocolate, right?
I've heard that line before.
Okay, all right. So you never know what exactly to expect because you have never been married, right?
To that
First
person
time.
before, yeah.
And so for me, it was chaos. A lot of things that did not make sense. And I'm very rational, very goal-oriented, very objective. So marriage wasn't making sense for me.
And I might want to add that Cesar was raised by a single mom. So he had never seen a normal marriage, meaning two different people, typically very different from each other, interacting in a home. And I think that also played a role because of expectations. So his expectations were like, woo, like it's going to be perfect and everything will be just the way I imagine it's going to be. And it wasn't that way. And I, on the other hand, came from an unhealthy marriage. So I got to see a lot of fighting and bickering and discord. And so my mission when I got married was I will not be a complaining, bickering wife like I saw my mom be. That was my goal. And it wasn't a good goal for what his goal was. The goals clashed and the expectations clashed
Did
as
the
well.
tension get so bad you considered divorce?
Whew. So many times we can't count. Except, well, no, I'll change that. Well, I would say the word divorce, but I didn't really believe in divorce. But I wanted to kill him about 1 million times during my marriage.
So she used to tell me, I want to kill you. One of these days. And I go,
couple of
why don't you
times.
just divorce me and let me go for free? I want to leave. She goes, no, I want to kill you.
You guys eventually began to sleep in separate bedrooms.
Oh, yeah. That was that season of about 8 months.
7.
About 7 months that we stopped talking to each other. Our son Zach was only maybe 8 months old, possibly. And just having a baby after 7 years, having a child come into the already very fragile marriage was chaos.
He wasn't planned. So basically,
Yeah.
it just happened,
he was
right?
God's miracle.
Because I don't think we would have planned it, especially during that chaotic situation that we were experiencing and living. So, yeah.
You shared a little bit about your family of origins and the relationships that you came from and you witnessed and experienced. Were there other things from your childhood that you feel, in looking back, that affected this primary relationship in your life? Unmet, childhood needs, etc.?
Yes.
Of course.
Our families, actually, it's interesting because we are reflections of our families in every possible way. It's at home and family that we learn how to have, what perspective to have of ourselves, of others, and of God.
We also learned a word that is very important for relationships, and that is trust.
Yeah.
So by the time you leave home, you are impacted, you are imprinted with this model of relationships.
Right.
So if those relationships were not healthy, you will not be a healthy individual and will not establish healthy relationships.
And in my case, I formed an insecure attachment, which basically means that I was more, I couldn't trust. I was actually afraid of my primary caretaker because I saw her verbally abusive, you could say, aggressive. And so I was afraid. I got married with that sense of I need distance. I'm not really fully ready to trust.
Mom and dad had a very distant relationship.
Emotionally
so
distant,
mom
yes.
married emotionally my wife. And her mother has smothered her. Just completely smothered.
Completely smothered me.
So she she was coming from a relationship where she was suffocating.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a relationship where I need connection, closeness.
You've been abandoned.
I'm needy. I've been abandoned emotionally. Mother was always working. She wasn't there for me emotionally. So my father left when I was 6 months old. So I need connection. I want closeness. I want to know that I belonged in a family. My wife was running away from family. I want to create a family. So imagine those polarities, coming into trying to do marriage. And then, of course, my wife was learned to be dismissive with everybody around because people were not really supposed to be trusted, especially her caretaker, her mother. So when she comes to a marriage, it was easy for her to do dismissive attitudes, behaviors. And when she was dismissive to me, I would just get hurt and wounded.
Deeply.
Deeply. I didn't know what to do with that. I felt rejected.
Some people may think, man, this is how I grew up. My childhood was very difficult. And obviously we can tell from what's happened since then that you're not bound by your origins. You're not bound by some of the brokenness in the family.
That's right.
I gotta ask, before we get to the turning point, when did you realize, okay, we need a miracle now? Either this is gonna happen through God, through a miracle, or we're done.
We had gone to school mainly because we wanted to help couples to deal with these situations.
And figure ourselves out.
And we were trying to see if there
We
were
became marriage and family therapists to
so
figure
we
ourselves out.
therapists trying to heal our marriage.
Yeah.
But the whole story turned completely sour because now we are armed with diagnoses. We know
what to call each other.
We know pathology.
Yes.
I know how sick you are now.
I know
Before
how
I didn't
sick
understand,
you are.
but now I know you're more sick than me. So anyhow, that type of situation.
Yeah,
so
it's
that made it
terrible.
really bad.
That seems like a very dangerous situation.
Super dangerous situation.
Yeah.
So that made us really think about this doesn't have any solution.
It felt hopeless more than once, to be honest, Anil. It wasn't a one-time moment. It was throughout the years that there would be, like any marriage, there would be some peaks. I don't want to make it sound like everything was hell.
Right.
But there was certainly
there was ups and downs.
there was ups and downs.
Right.
And there were several ups that kept us together, right?
Right. There was enough. And I think the fact that we both loved God, we knew that. We love God. I mean, I can't stand you sometimes, but I love God. Right. But the love for God and the fact that He invented marriage and blessed marriage, I was hopeful. Plus, I really felt God hated divorce. Not murder so much, but I knew He hated divorce.
I think Carolann, I knew she was committed to the marital relationship.
I was.
And I think that helped me
I would tell
a lot.
you, you're stuck with me.
And even though, I'm going to kill you, but you're stuck with me. Okay?
Till
so
death.
a lot of dissonances and a lot of discrepancies.
Yeah.
And that was driving me nuts big time. But the fact that I come from a family of origin where in 3 generations, none of the men have lasted more than 5 years in a marital relationship. None of them. So I am the first one that I'm crossing the line of
You're
over 5 years.
changing the family tree.
I'm trying to change the family tree. And most of the men in my family tree, they have abandoned their children.
Yeah.
So here is a 6, 7 months old boy, and I'm having to face the decision. Do I bail out like everybody else has done in the past? Or do I stick around for this kid and see how we can work this out?
Now, you come from a military background as well,
Pretty
right?
much.
Yeah.
So which wasn't helping.
No, it wasn't helping.
Because Carolann has mentioned a little bit about...
I haven't mentioned about the fact that I didn't know that due to a lot of the emotional chaos and high levels of stress growing up in my home, I developed ADD. Without hyperactivity. And
What's
so
ADD?
Attention deficit disorder. And so that was part of why I wear watches, I have a phone, but I never look at them for time. And so I tend to run late, I forget things, I'm like a floating butterfly, just having a good time with everyone that's around me, and I forget like the main goal of the day. And so I didn't know that. And so that was another factor, if you will, a mental health factor that I didn't even know was part of this chaotic equation and a big piece of what was driving him insane.
Now, I got to ask, though, I mean, obviously we can't identify one point where you were like done, but you kind of see a phase or a season you're in.
We see a pattern.
Right. And then I'm assuming then the turning point as well was probably this progressive season, not so much a day where everything changed.
Right.
But do you remember a point where you realized we can salvage this, we can win?
I'll tell you what did it for me. When I got married, I was really hoping and expecting my husband to love me in all of the ways, unconditional acceptance, affirmations.
Which is what everybody expects, right?
But I really, yeah, I guess everyone does. But in my case, I wanted to get all of that from you. And it wasn't until through lots of prayer and tears and just really going to the Lord with my distress. I didn't want to get divorced, but this is awful. And now we have children. Now Jonathan came a few months later, our second son. And so I started waking up really early and just going into the Word and praying. And God helped me understand, chill, girl. Your imperfect husband will never be able to love you in the perfect way you need. I can give you that, so give him some slack. Accept what he can give you, be patient with him, and stop demanding that he be your all in all. And that was a shift for me, a big shift for me. I saw hope.
So you started seeing more accurate expectations from him. That was something that was a clarifying, pivotal moment.
Yes.
You started realizing he's a human being.
Yes.
He's a
as
man.
broken as I am, right? I can't love him perfectly. He can't love me perfectly. But God brought us together, and God can do something beautiful with this mess.
Right.
And so when I understood that, Anil, that for me was like, okay, doesn't mean that everything, we didn't, jump on a white horse and drive, into the sunset. No, but I understood clearly that my expectations for what I could get from him or any man in my marriage was completely unrealistic.
And that's wonderful that you had this, I wouldn't call it epiphany, but just,
yes.
yeah, but it seemed like that this was the start, at least, of a turning moment.
Yes.
How about you, Cesar?
We went to a psychotherapist. And
he dragged me to one day.
I told her, fix this woman, please, because I cannot stand her anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the psychotherapist tells me, what are your challenges with Carolann? Yeah. And then, of course, the ADD was driving me nuts.
But we didn't know, honey.
I didn't know ADD existed because I hadn't studied psychology at that point. But I'm telling her, she's completely the opposite, coming from the army or the military, discipline, orderly, cleanness, all those things were imprinted in me since I was 5 years old, right? Yeah. Responsible, on time, but anyhow. So I told her, everything I am, she's not. And she's just completely the opposite. And I cannot stand it anymore. She's just, we cannot function together. And she says, it sounds like Carolann has a diagnosis. And I go, what is it? I was interested. I wanted to know. She goes, I think your wife is a dolphin. Dolphins, before the show, they're in their cages, and they are just basically standing still there, waiting for the show to start. But meantime, they are so quiet, they're almost like dead, right? Because they don't even move. But the moment the show starts, they just come out of the cages and then jump through, hoops and fire and do all sorts of, stuff. And she goes, your wife is a dolphin. I go, you describe my wife very well, because out of the house, my wife was a perfect functioning individual.
At least I seemed to be.
But the moment she walked into our home, she died. Like she was dead.
My brain.
And then she explained to me that ADD individuals, when they are faced with things that motivates them.
Fun.
Yeah, blush rushes into their brain. They live like a Christmas tree. They activate, they speak, like right now, that's Carolann. But when she goes home, it's like you unplug the electricity and all the, lights, they just died. I go, that's Carolann. And I go, but I used to tell her, how come you can be such a wonderful person out there, but in the house you're so dark and so dead? And then she explained to me the ADD thing.
But when you say dark and dead, you mean like I wasn't functioning in the ways, like the way you wanted me to,
functioning-wise.
Yeah, functioning, yeah.
That helped me big time to understand the diagnosis, to read about ADD. And then I thought like, wow. And here I thought she didn't love me, because every time,
that's
see, that was a situation. I was basically putting the, punctuating the story in this way. If she is not doing what I'm asking her to do, if she cannot change, not even,
like, don't forget to bring milk home tonight or whatever, and I would forget. He would immediately, what would you tell yourself?
She doesn't love me.
So you were interpreting that as rejection. She doesn't love me right now.
She doesn't love me. She doesn't love me. She doesn't love me. She doesn't love me.
A wet towel, you don't leave it on the floor. You pick it up and you hang it somewhere so it gets dry, right?
Right.
And the towel is there, and I go like, she doesn't love me. So everything was like, she doesn't love me.
Yeah.
If she loved me, she would,
pick up the towel.
comply and do something. So that was 3 years. So I was convicted that she didn't love me. And now remember, I was in the ministry. Giving up my wife meant giving up my ministry. So I was walking a fine line. At what point do I say goodbye to my wife and then be ready to say goodbye to my ministry? Because how do you explain, I'm leaving my wife because she's ADD? Well, that's not a good reason to leave your wife behind.
Thank you.
So I decided, I need to work through this.
Yeah.
But having now a concept, I was being able to conceptualize Carolann as an ADD individual that you expect this and this and this and this and this of her. I go like, wow, this is Carolann. So it's not about the fact that she. So I started being more compassionate.
Super compassionate. So that was another shift.
Situation.
Made it easier for me too, right? Because he shifted. He stopped saying, he stopped asking the question that he would ask me.
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Right. There was a default question in his mind that kept coming
imagine what
up.
that question does for your wife or your spouse when you ask, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And that question was being asked time and again, because it didn't make sense with the things that she was doing.
Right.
They would not make sense.
Well, Cesar and Carolann, I'm excited because you're sharing a very interesting point in your relationship. And I see you now, you're a very loving couple, you're very present. I love your interaction, you're very fun, And I'm excited to talk more about this. We've just heard a deeply moving story from Cesar and Carolann de Leon, from early struggles rooted in family baggage to the miracle that resurrected their marriage. Their honesty reminds us that love isn't built on fairy tales. It's forged through honesty, healing, and a whole lot of grace. Coming up after the break, they'll unpack the practical, powerful principles that transform their relationship and that can transform yours too. Stick with us, you won't want to miss it. Welcome back to Hope at Night. Earlier, we heard Cesar and Carolann de Leon share the raw, redemptive story of their marriage, from emotional distance to spiritual renewal. Now they're joining us again to dig into the heart of healthy relationships, how family patterns, unmet needs, and emotional wounds can shape our love lives, and what we can do to grow. Cesar, Carolann, you begin to share the hope that you begin to experience in the relationship, maybe a better understanding, a better picture. But what pivotal moments moved you from the path of separation to the path of reconciliation and love and unity again? What were some of those moments?
There was a moment in the story when we stopped talking to each other because we just couldn't talk. So we decided, let's just not talk. Our talking was based on our child. Change diapers, have you fed him?
The only point of unity?
Basically.
No conversations.
So one evening, she decided to leave the bedroom 7 months before. So she's not sleeping in the bedroom anymore. We're not talking to each other. So I'm figuring out, okay, this is it. This is the end of my marriage and ministry and everything I know. So I'm thinking I need to leave. I got to move on. I got to get another apartment or something. And that's what I have in my mind. When she comes into the bedroom, I'm reading one night, and she says, can you take care of the baby for a moment? I want to go out and visit with my brother and his wife. She went out, and when she came back... Well, the
baby was asleep, so I said, just keep an eye on the baby because he's already down for the night. Yeah.
When she came back, she came into the bedroom, and she sat by the bed. And I figured, okay, she beat me to the divorce, because she's really now asking me officially, let's get the divorce. But instead of hearing divorce talking, she tells me, I love you, and I don't want to lose my marriage. That did it for me. Remember, I'm the one that wants family, wants togetherness, wants connectivity. And she says, I'm willing to work towards this marriage. Let's work it. I don't want to lose you. And that brought hope into my heart. Sometimes the words of an apology were not so easy to hear often. So for me, that was like, I feel bad. Let's just redo this. Let's reset the button. Let's rewind. And I welcomed that because I didn't want to lose her. I love my wife, especially after learning and finding out that she was ADD. And that was the beginning of our restoration. That's when I believe. And I remember telling her, you need to be patient with me because I am gone. Emotionally, I am not here.
You had left emotionally.
Yeah, I was there physically, but emotionally, I was gone. I was, so I told my wife, be patient with me because I want to come back emotionally home, but you got to give me time. And she was willing to do so.
Carolann, you apparently left for a little bit and then you returned, sat at the foot of the bed. What happened in that time?
A Holy
That's a good
Spirit
question.
moment. Good question, Anil. I'm glad you caught that because at dinner with my brother, there was a conversation that took place that was very providential. My brother asked me some very, very direct questions that evening that I wasn't expecting. And one of them was, man, Carolann, your husband's a youth pastor at this big church, and he's got this big following of young women, groupies all around him all the time. Don't you ever get jealous or worry that he may, wander? And I had never even considered that in my little bubble of ADD-ness. I never considered that was even a possibility. But that put a little something in the back of my head like, oh my goodness, you mean I could lose my husband? It was a longer conversation, but that just kind of opened up my awareness that I couldn't continue living in La La Land. By the way, I had no idea this guy was already looking for an apartment. No idea whatsoever. So I was clueless to the max. But on the way home, I felt impressed. The Holy Spirit impressed my heart and said, listen, girl, that's a lot of pride. 8 months worth of pride there that you can't, have a conversation with your husband. And I realized I love what I considered then. I love this knucklehead is what I told myself that night. He's not, he doesn't know how to love me and he, whatever, but I love him. He's the father of my son and I love him. And so the Holy Spirit was softening my heart, totally knocked me off of my big pride horse so that by the time I got home, the words just came out of me where nothing had come out of me for 8 months, certainly nothing positive. And so even as I'm telling him, I love you and I don't want to lose you, I don't want to lose my marriage, it was a little surprising that it was coming out of me, but it was coming out of me. So I know it was the Holy Spirit that had my heart was opening up again to hope.
Since that moment, what things did you guys begin to do differently? What elements did you bring into your relationship that weren't there prior?
Our schedules were wildly busy, raising 2 babies. We were still not very wise because I would recommend couples that we should have sat down and kind of charted a plan, right? And one of them should have included going consistently to a therapist because we'd done it here and there and here and there, but nothing really consistent. So we did. I'll tell you what we didn't do right. We didn't immediately go and really figure out our stories and everything that led us to the patterns that we were living. But some of the good things that we did. Number one, my husband stopped asking me, what's wrong with you? That was really important, right? Because that was very wounding to me. I became aware that I wasn't all that. In other words, that there were a lot of things that were quite annoying behaviors that I really began to very intentionally pray about. Like, God, help me not be so messy. Help me remember to pick up my towel. These little things that typically I think if we're going to stereotype that the male typically does, that was kind of what I was doing in the marriage.
And it was working. Something happened to Carolann's brain. I believe that through prayer.
Great, and the grace he was giving me
through
too.
The power of the gospel.
Yeah. I do.
There was a shift in her brain functioning.
I felt it.
So when we talk about changing, God doesn't just change you from the, superficial, little sinful stuff that you have or whatever you have in your life. He can go inside your brain and do reprogramming. And I believe that he reprogrammed Carolann.
I do.
Because the towel began to be picked up and put, and I go like, wow, the towel is hanging from the rack. I go like,
she covered the toothpaste.
Wow,
And I gotta say this. I mean, it's a bit comical here. It's a bit. We would say, well, that's a little minimal. That's minimal. But the reality is, what happens in our home, even the little things, drastically affects. Our home is really a citadel of our heart and mind, and we're very particular about certain things.
But remember that we are particular because we're driven by anxiety.
Right.
We just don't know that. All of us are full of anxiety.
Right.
And we demonstrate our anxiety by our different issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever we pay attention to in life, that shows you that there is anxiety in that issue.
Yeah.
In me, the cleanness and the orderly was an issue because there was chaos in my life that I didn't know on the inside.
Yeah.
So I needed to have my organized life on the outside neat and clean because I couldn't put my life together. I wasn't ready to put my life together because I wouldn't, most of us bring a baggage to the marriage. And everybody says that. Oh, yeah, we all bring baggage to the marriage. Question is, and the issue is, most of us don't ask, what is the baggage
What's
that
in
I
there?
carry? What's in there?
Yeah.
The curiosity, what's in there? And it wasn't until years into the marriage that we began to ask ourselves, okay, what do I have? What do I bring? And you start finding out that there's like a structure of emotions. Everybody has an structure of emotions that basically it's like a big building full of emotions.
Yeah.
And you get to these buildings and these spaces by buttons that are being pressed, like an elevator. Like, for instance, you are happy. Well, let's say happiness is at the first level. But then third, fourth, fifth level, there is anger, there is a sense of injustice, there is bitterness. Well, those emotions, you get to those emotions by buttons that are being pressed like an elevator. You get there through an elevator. So those things those particularities you're talking about, they are driven by emotions that are important to you, and anxiety. And much of this anxiety is a lot about pain.
Wow, that's incredible. And just so you begin to realize just some of these little things that making adjustments made a world of a difference.
Yeah.
And then, Cesar, you started realizing, my wife, things are changing here. And there seems to be this, both of you are experiencing, whether it's grace or some adjustments.
Renewal, grace, the renewal through grace. Okay. I would definitely call it that, Anil. And my husband probably doesn't understand because you'd have to be me to know this. But the fact that you shifted from being an exacting husband, like you didn't do this, you forgot that, oh, you forgot that again. You became so much more gracious with me. He started overlooking a lot. Instead of if I did leave something behind or whatever, he would take care of it without even saying anything to me. So the more
shut up and just pick it up and don't say anything to her.
Yeah.
So to this day, that's what I do.
Yeah. Right.
She forgets something. I don't tell her. I remember one time, I even called her come downstairs and come and pick up whatever it was, okay? Right. That was me.
That was the old him.
For me, remember, I'm going to train this woman.
Yeah, he thought I was trainable.
I'm going to put her through 6 weeks of boot camp.
Yeah,
and she's going to be a brand new woman.
No,
because I'm going to teach her how to be orderly and disciplined, blah, blah.
No.
It wasn't working.
No.
It was pain. It was torturing her, and it was torturing me.
Yeah.
So finally, one day I go, forget it with this boot camp thing. This is not working. So I started doing the things, just picking up the slack.
And it felt...
Just doing my part and doing the extra, not even asking her to do anything. And that relaxed her. And
I felt grace. So my heart and my brain, mostly my brain, was flooded by grace. And it was His grace, it was God's grace, and I'm going to tell you there's nothing better than swimming in grace.
That's beautiful. And that seems to be how relationships should be running, the atmosphere of grace.
Yes.
Now, some people may watch it and then they say to you, look, you don't understand our relationship. Yeah. You don't understand the drama and the tension. We're ready to divorce. We have irreconcilable differences. What would you say to that couple?
You need to know the emotional map of your spouse. Carolann's emotional map is my GPS.
Yes.
It shows me how to navigate through her and with her so that I can understand her. So knowing your spouse's emotional map, that's point number one. Super important. Because what you learn is so important, it will basically educate you and inform you as to how to deal with your spouse. Because you cannot deal with your spouse just the way your dad dealt with his wife or your mother, or the way you deal with your friends. You got to deal with your spouse in a different way because her map, the road through her map is different.
Unique. All of us have a unique road.
So that's
absolutely.
very important.
And emotion. So it's an emotional journey, an emotional and a spiritual journey. If we were to give it, what are the components of this? The mapping, the tracking, the attunement. It's all about our emotional lives.
When we come into a marriage, we bring skeletons into the marital relationship. You open a
closet.
closet and skeletons come out of the closet. we bring those skeletons into a marital relationship. We think that, no, they stayed at home. No, they don't. They follow you. There are metaphors. Metaphors, things that happen in you in life that you come and you bring that feeling, that emotion, that experience, and you put it on your wife. That's a metaphor. You got to discover these metaphors. What is it that I'm bringing from other experiences and putting on my wife? For instance, I dated a girl that was unfaithful to me.
Yes.
So I kept thinking, my wife's going to leave me. Remember, I'm the
Yes.
one being left alone all the time.
Yeah.
You were
I'm the
carrying that
abandoned
into
child.
the relationship.
Yes.
So eventually, she's going to leave me. So why love Carolann, that much, fully? Let's just love her 25%, right? So that when she leaves, you will not hurt. You will not cry that much, right? So metaphors, skeletons, imprintings, memories, sometimes are expectations from your marital relationships, which we already spoke. So all these things, you got to learn about yourself, what's inside of you.
Self-awareness.
And bring healing, especially if it's wounds, because there's a lot of wounds and a lot of past experiences that have completely destroyed you emotionally. Right. You got to bring healing into those experiences so that those will not dictate the way you think and the way you act with your spouse.
You talked about this emotional map. That's amazing. That's beautiful. It's practical. Understanding the emotional map of your spouse.
Which is made out of, yes.
Now, what are some effective communication strategies you can implement into a relationship?
Being real, authentically sharing, open-hearted sharing, which is hard to do if you don't know who you are. And I didn't mention that.
It's hard to do if you carry trauma.
True.
Transparency is not easy to acquire.
Is hard.
Authenticity. See, let's assume that this is intimacy. Intimacy requires 5 fingers. If I'm hiding a finger or 2 fingers from my wife because I don't want to be authentic, I don't want to be transparent because I'm ashamed, or because I don't want to reveal,
or I have secrets,
or I want to keep a secret life, let's say pornography, I want to keep it to myself. Well, when I come to do intimacy, I don't come together. There's parts of me that are missing. So intimacy cannot completely take place. And there's a lot of people that are only hanging from one finger in regards to intimacy.
Emotional.
Some people know intimacy at one level. Others, they have able to achieve it at 2 levels. Others at 3. But only the couples that achieve intimacy at 5 levels, which is completely transparent. No hiding. Nothing from you.
Saying what we feel.
I'm open completely, and when I communicate, I'm being transparent. That means what I say is what I feel. I don't say things I don't feel.
Like we used to.
Like you used to.
Because even when I said I'm going to kill you, that isn't what I really was feeling.
Right. So that's being incongruent.
That was very incongruent. What I was trying to say was, please love me. Please accept me. It's killing me that you can't accept and love me.
That's transparency.
That's transparency.
And that takes you somewhere. That creates good communication patterns.
Yeah.
But as long as you are not communicating with transparency, you will not be able to basically
to advance,
reveal who you are, and the other you will not be able to see the other person either.
Let me follow up. How do you build transparency? Because sometimes there's not a trust in a relationship.
Yes.
How do you get to that point where transparency is coming from both sides?
Good question.
One has to start.
It takes one.
Somebody has to begin. I remember one time being in a youth camp, being through, in the midst of all this situation. I remember an impression I received. Cesar, your transparency and your honesty to your wife needs to rise and needs to come to this level. You're not there. And that was for me a call to transparency, a call to be open to my wife.
Fully open.
Opening my computers, my phones, passwords. She's got my passwords. She's got everything. I don't hide nothing from my wife. I want to sleep in peace, and I want to have God's blessing in my life. So I felt that transparency, I needed to bring it into my relationship. And that's what happened to me with Carolann. I don't know what happened to her, if she responded to that in the same way or what happened. But anyhow, I started being more transparent with my wife in every area. And I think that brought trust in our relationship.
It did increase trust. So for us, again, it was a journey to unlearning the way we had learned to communicate and the way we had for so many years. So kind of destroying little by little the old ways And then every day taking baby steps. There's a lot of power in baby steps. Right. Some of us want to go from horrible to wonderful in a jump. And I'll tell you that rarely happens. So for my husband and I, it has been definitely a journey, meaning I would like to say, you'd probably agree that every day, every week, every month, every year, we continue growing, Anil. Right. It's not like we reach nirvana and we're happy. I want to know that I'm communicating better tomorrow than I will today.
Well, this is fascinating because some people look at, marriage with, hey, I've reached this level, my wife can deal with me, I can deal with my wife. But the reality is, what you guys are talking about is bringing continual intentionality. In other words, marriage is a school without a graduation.
There you go.
You've got to keep learning and growing.
There you go.
Now,
yes.
I love what you guys were honing in on, the openness, the honesty. I heard someone once say that intimacy is intimacy, right? Understanding more about each other. Yes. I got a couple questions for you. The first one is this. How do you maintain romance and intimacy over the long haul?
Intentionality. It doesn't just happen.
5 things. Number 1, closeness. You have to seek closeness.
Literal proximity. Physical proximity.
You got to find ways to say, let's connect tonight. Let's go out and do something together. That proximity is super important. Number 2 is transparency. It has to be there. Otherwise, how can it be romantic? How can you be loving to a person that you don't even trust? So transparency is important. Number 3 is communication. You need to have freedom of expression. That's a second element that is needed in a healthy relationship. Freedom of expression. Everybody has something to say. As somebody said, most of us are going to die without having said things that we wish we could have said sometime in our lives. So there are these voices, these messages that we would like to express that we never do because nobody's listening. Nobody cares. Nobody pays attention. Well, we're hoping that our spouses will be curious and say, tell me about those voices that are inside of you. Express to me what you want to say, what you would love to say before you die. Yeah, that's a beautiful, question. And so that's communication. Number 4, grace. We cannot do marriages without grace. Because we're such a broken, sinful human beings.
Mercy.
And we're so messed up from the moment we were born. I usually tell in my seminars, the enemy started working against your emotional, mental health before you were born.
That's right.
I know our audience is going to have lots of questions for you. Cesar and Carolann have reminded us that healthy relationships are built on stories known, feelings honored, and God at the center. If something tonight resonated with you, visit our website at hopetv.org/hopeatnight, where you can watch this episode again and download this season's free gift. When we come back, our studio audience will have a chance to ask their questions. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hope at Night. Tonight, Cesar and Carolann de Leon have walked us through the struggles that nearly ended their marriage and the keys that helped restore it. They've shared how knowing each other's story, listening well, and honoring emotions can lay the foundation for a loving, lasting relationship. Now it's your turn. We're opening up the floor to our studio audience. What question do you have for the De Leons? Who'd like to go first? Right over there.
Did the process of restoring your marriage involve forgiving your parents and those involved in the emotionally harmful aspects of your upbringing?
The answer is an absolute yes. I had no choice but to extend grace because just as we were well-intentioned parents with our 2 sons, and we made lots of mistakes, believe you me, we could have them on another show and they could tell you all about that. And we've realized that all of our parents do the best they know how to do with the information they have at the moment and with the stress they're living in their lives at the moment. And so for me especially, because I had years where I was very resentful with my mom. I didn't understand her ways, her controlling narcissistic tendencies and things like that. I mean, that's all I could talk about because it was just so harmful to me. And so when I was God's grace gave me the grace to forgive my mom for things that were not her fault. She didn't go to Walmart one day and decide to buy her problem, her mental health problems. And so I realized that's part of the cycle, is as we get grace from God and we give it to each other, we must pass it forward to those who have hurt us without really intending to.
If you don't, resentment will leak into your other relationships.
Yeah.
Bitterness is something that affects you, affects your circle of influence, and basically it's going to be impacting everybody negatively. So by forgiving somebody in your past, you will be helping your present relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
That's incredible. Any other questions? Right over there.
What exactly is an emotional map, and how does that knowledge of each other's emotional maps, how do you apply that in everyday life?
Awareness is one of the pivotal points of being intelligent emotionally. A lot of us are not aware of our emotions. They are there, they motivate us, they basically are the ones sometimes indicating what type of the quality of your thinking and your thought process, but we don't know who they are. So discovering our emotions, naming them, and see when is it that they come across and they come into being is important.
So you're charting the responses.
So you chart your own responses.
Like a map.
Mm-hmm. For instance, I didn't know that I had been abandoned by my father, by my mother. I didn't know that abandonment was a part of my experience, yet it was playing an important and fundamental role in our relationship. So when I learned that abandonment was part of by the way, abandonment was the reason why I used to think every time, because my wife is also a nurse, and she used to work as a nurse when we first got married. So every night that she went to work, I used to think, is she coming back?
That's
Is she
so
going
sad.
to fall in love with a doctor in the hospital? So I would prepare myself mentally that she's not coming back. But I didn't know that the abandonment issues didn't begin with Carolann. It had begun when I was a child. So that emotion, that experience was part of my map. So mapping everything in my life.
So mapping our stories.
And then some of them, those emotions, they are, I want to say sick. I want to say they need healing. They need healing.
They're wounds.
So those wounds, they need healing, and working towards your emotions, list of emotions, and making sure that you identify the ones that need healing is pivotal for you to be a healthy individual. And then you share that with your spouse.
So there's a lot of sharing, a lot of curiosity for map making, right?
And she will not forget what I share with her. She cannot forget my map, because my map is basically telling her, this is my GPS. This is how you navigate with my soul, with my heart.
Yes.
And remember that my heart is tender, so be careful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Any other questions?
Back in the day, people met, dated for a while, got married, and then unfortunately possibly divorced.
Yes.
Sort of faith.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
going on faith. Today it seems like people are living together and finding everything out ahead of time and still not able to have a healthy relationship. To what do you attribute?
Yes, that's an excellent observation. So what statistics are actually showing us is that oftentimes, because number one, our children and grandchildren have been watching us. And a lot of them have determined, I'm not going to go that route. Look at mom and dad. They dated. They did everything right. And look at the hot mess that they provided for our family. So a lot of these younger couples are determining to live together, right? And then see, kind of like test driving the car, right? And if it doesn't work out, we can return the car. And you're absolutely right. Statistics are showing that couples that are test driving will actually have a lower chance of it becoming a healthy marriage. Not a higher chance, a lower chance. But a lot of our younger kids, they don't know that. And so they were so discouraged, like I said, by watching their parents and grandparents, that it's their best intent to try it their way, hoping for a better result. So we don't typically recommend that. We recommend definitely that the couples need to move. Like if they're distance dating like we did, we always recommend one or the other needs to move to the same area where you can sort of do life together, see each other in the morning, at night, on a weekend, not just, during fantasy dates. And those kinds of relationships do a whole lot better because you are doing life, learning a lot about each other before marriage. And even then, marriage is going to be a challenge. So I think we need to do a much better job as adults, parents, grandparents, of letting our kids know, guys, marriage is hard. It's not the honeymoon phase.
Being honest and real about it.
Being honest and real. Like, no one told me how hard marriage was going to be, and I looked at my parents and thought, well, I'm not going to do that. My marriage is going to be so much better. But marriage is hard, and it takes a lot of intentionality and tons of grace from the only source where we can get it.
Yeah, this is a fallacy in that process when people come together and they go, let's have a relationship, but let's not define it. Let's leave it undefined, because they believe that by leaving it undefined, things will go better, because if we don't call it a name, we might succeed at this.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Good relationships will take a commitment, and that commitment needs to be defined. Intimacy. Well, commitment is part of intimacy, and that was one of the other aspects that we needed to talk about anyhow.
We got time for one more question.
Oh.
Right over there.
This question is for you both.
Yeah.
How do you help a man who's still silently suffering and suppressing his feelings from having an absent mother?
Those wounds are very real, and we can't pull out of someone, pull out. But what we can become as a spouse is a safe place. And we call that a safe holding place. And so being non-critical, being accepting.
We all communicate.
Yes.
Everything we do is communicating.
Even not talking is communicating.
But verbally speaking is part of communication. Our nonverbals, the way we behave, the way we look, the way we roll our eyes, it's all communicating. So this man that you're talking about is communicating in his own way. So we need to pay attention to those nonverbal communications. We need to pay attention to the way of he is doing life. His, I would say, his attitude towards life, his attitude towards marriage, his attitude towards his children. He's communicating. So we got to read that communication and see how we can then establish a conversation with this individual. I noticed that when your children come around, you move to a different room. What is that all about? Talk to me. And be patient, because as by nature, we men tend not to be basically so connected to communicating verbally. This is something that is more right brain type of thinking, doing. So we are more like a brain oriented, and in the brain, the part of the Broca area that is the communicating area is in the right brain. So we men have problems communicating as it is. Now, when you put trauma into somebody's life, the Broca area shuts down. So even if he wants to communicate, he can't. He may have the desire to communicate, but he cannot do that.
So he needs help. So we would recommend counseling,
psychotherapy, treatments, patience from the wife, and then slowly trying to observe why he does, and then try to ask him.
Show curiosity.
Yeah,
ask questions.
Why is it that you do that?
Or what do
tell
you remember?
I understand you.
Or tell me your story.
And
let me follow up. But what about a situation where one spouse says nothing's wrong and the other spouse says there's a lot of things wrong, and you got one that's not interested in counseling, not interested in self-examination, or even communication?
Yeah, typical.
Where do you start? What do you do? Is that it?
Good question.
It isn't it.
No.
We have our own ways to acquire knowledge and to be impacted. We have our love language. We have avenues to our soul. As spouses, we need to be investigators. We need to be explorers. We need to be curious and see, how can I convey this message to my spouse that obviously is not getting it. But that spouse maybe watches TV, listens to some programming, or connects to some YouTube channels. I gotta find ways, how do I get through this individual? Everybody has a hunger to know something. You just gotta find out, what is that something that my husband or my spouse needs or loves to hear, and see if I can find whatever I want to convey, find it in those ways of communicating that to
medium.
my husband. Because lonely people don't like to be lonely.
Doesn't feel good.
Hurting people don't like to be hurting.
Doesn't feel good.
Broken individuals don't enjoy being broken.
That's right.
Except that they just don't know how to go about it.
How to get out.
When they say, I don't know, basically sometimes, they say nothing's wrong, is their way to say, I just don't know how to get out of this hole.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know.
It's an emotional hole.
But a man is not going to, especially as a man, is not going to say to his wife, I just don't know how to get out of my hole. You know,
they don't have that language.
He just say, nothing's wrong, everything's fine.
Yeah, that's what they'll say, or they'll say, what's wrong? Nothing.
You know
Nothing.
He's miserable. You know, his behaviors are saying he's miserable. So read those behaviors, and they go, okay, my husband is miserable. So how can I do to get him out of his misery? By maybe presenting him with materials, videos, movies, maybe going to the park.
Marriage retreats that you can.
Some men, they do good.
Pay them to come with you. You never know. You bribe them. You just really never know when God will use a word, a song, a moment, someone else saying something random that will burst open his shut down heart.
Quick story. A woman got up in one of her seminars and she says, my husband never talks to me. He doesn't want to be with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I go, what does he do? He's a mechanic. Where does he work? At home. So he fixes his car at home. Okay. I said, you have an overall, mechanic overalls?
Overalls?
No. I go to Walmart, buy a pair of overalls. And then do you have one of those little carts that you lay yourself under? No. So go get your small cart. Mm-hmm. So next time that he comes and he goes under the car, you come with your overalls, with your little cart in your hands, and you get under the car next to your husband and show up there next to him.
And she did.
And you're going to blow his mind away.
Head gasket.
When he sees you next there with overalls, right?
Yeah.
And then you start asking questions. What is that for? And what does this do?
Yeah.
And what are you doing? You know what happens?
She did it.
They started having conversations under the car.
They did. They did.
That's great.
Everybody has a way.
Yeah.
Just got to find the
There's
way
a
to
way.
communicate.
I love that, and we'll end on that. Everyone has a way. You just gotta find it. Cesar, Carolann, we could keep talking about this. This is great stuff, by the way, and more people need to hear about this. Thank you.
Yes.
Marriage is one of the most profound commitments two people can make. A sacred partnership that requires courage, compassion, and consistent choice. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12 teaches us, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. And a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Tonight, we saw what happens when a couple refuses to let the past define them. When God becomes that 3rd strand in the cord, resilience replaces resentment, and love is reborn. Whatever your story, it's never too late to start weaving something stronger together. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Hope at Night.